Cool deal. Yeah, let's kick it off then. Well, thank everybody for joining today. We really appreciate it. And, we hope this can be a great conversation for you all. So my name's Tyler, and I'm going to be on the marketing side, kind of running things on the back end for you today. Super excited about this. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to TJ.
Thank you, Tyler. That's great. And welcome, everyone. And I'm TJ Randall. I'm the Chief Customer Experience Officer here at Instruct. And today we're going to have a lot of fun, I promise. We have Mateo from Sysdig. And, Instruct as a hands-on learning platform, one of the great things about my job is to see the different ways in which customers try to engage with their end learners and make it exciting and make it meaningful. And I think Mateo has an amazing story to tell today because Sysdig is doing some pretty interesting things with gamification. So let's kick that off. So Mateo, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yes, thank you, Thomas. Yes, so my name is Mateo Burillo, product manager, particularly focused on the training and education side of Sysdig. Right, so I've been in the company in Sysdig for 7 years. My company birthday was yesterday, actually. Nice. So 7 years in the company. Super happy to be here. And yes, we've been using Instruct a lot, right? Especially the last 2 years, something like that. So I think we have created a workflow that really works for our customers, that is able to highlight the values that we want to highlight, which is not a trivial thing to do. And we are going to explain why, right? Yeah. And we are using Instruct for that. And we are happy customers. So that is why we want to collaborate in this event and basically explain a little bit what we are doing and why does it work.
Excellent. And tell us a little bit about Sysdig for those that are joining today that don't know what Sysdig is.
So Sysdig is a platform, right? It's a Sysdig Monitor and Sysdig Secure. So we are a CNAPP. I don't want to get too much into acronyms, right? But Cloud Native Application Protection Platform, right? So we are very focused on the world of enterprise microservices, cloud solutions, Kubernetes, containers, right? So if you are creating one of these new architectures, we are focusing on securing and monitoring end-to-end, right? And one of the core values, or some of the core values that we have at Sysdig and that we are always explaining to our customers is, first of all, Sysdig can give you visibility even if your architecture is very complex, right? Now we have many different layers. We have a pod inside Kubernetes that is inside a cloud account that is connected to an Okta. I mean, everyone has this kind of complex configurations, right? And another thing that we are always highlighting is that the attackers, right, the malicious actors, are becoming very sophisticated and very fast. So your solution needs to be also very fast to be able to respond. Right. So, I'm not in the probably the marketing sales part of the company will give you a more formal response, but that is, I think, a good description.
I think that does a great job. I mean, it's important, and I think as you kind of highlighted, showcasing security is actually pretty hard in the sense that you don't want to do it in like a dummy environment. You want it in a real version sandbox environment. And I think that's really the highlight of today, right? You're even going to show a great demo of this, but that's pretty important for Sysdig to be able to do.
That is totally correct, right? Because we are an enterprise solution, right? And one of our value propositions is that, okay, your enterprise infrastructure is very complex, and you are going to find thousands of security signals, thousands of indicators, and you need to correlate that super fast, right? So if we were to create a training and deliver one virtual machine per attendee, then we will be missing the point, right, in a way, because that is something that will be easy in a way. We probably don't need a product to do that because we just can create a virtual machine, but that will be missing the point, because the point is that, okay, we want to recreate a complex scenario that is as realistic as possible.
Well, let's talk about that in terms of kind of the foundation of gamification. So just to talk, actually, go back, Tyler, one side. The goal of today is to get to the live demo, because I think that's a really fun way to show us. But let's just make sure we're on the same page. We'll talk a little bit about fundamentals, and as Tyler said, please let the questions roll in as we're going, because we'll make sure we bring that in. So So, all right, let's talk about the fundamentals of this, of what does it mean for scenario-based training, and what are kind of the 3 C's that Sysdig makes sure that they leverage in their approach?
Okay, so first of all, we need to set up a challenge, right? The challenge is basically how do you, as I was explaining, how do you create a scenario that is realistic? How do you create, we are going to talk about gamification, right? But in the IT security world has always been gamified by design, right? Because you have a set of malicious actors, right? You have the hackers, colloquially speaking, the hackers, right? The malicious actors that are, they have a set of techniques and they will be trying to attack you, right? So the challenge is how you can get better than them and how you can get faster than them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always evolving, right? It's never a done deal. You will get better, then the attackers will evolve, and this has been going on for decades. So that is a little bit the challenge of that we need to create in the customer.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then what about choice? So like now we have a realistic environment that we're presenting to a learner that looks a lot like an enterprise setup, which is important. And then what does it mean about choice? Like how does that engage the learner?
Yes, no, we offer choice in the sense that, and that is something that we really like about Instruct, right? We are presenting you with a real scenario. So you have a set of steps, and you are not constrained to a set of steps, right? Write this, click here, and click there. No, you have the choice. How do you respond to this challenge, right? And you have a Linux machine, you have Kubernetes, you have the Sysdig product, and we can tell you how to react in these situations. We can cover the theory with you, but at the end of the day, when you are playing the scenario, you execute the choice in the sense that you are actually choosing, right, how to respond. Right. And you may be, and that is what is interesting, right, about this scenario. You may be successful or not. It depends. Some of the scenarios that we present, for example, they are time bounded.
Right.
You have 10 minutes to respond to this security threat. So then you have a set of choices, right? You can, for example, try to look for the runtime indicators. You can try to look for the vulnerabilities, right? So in a way, it's like a small. We like to call it like this chess game, right? That you need to play with the attacker.
Makes sense. And it sounds like since you're in a realistic environment, it feels real. And adding that pressure is kind of like how your day job goes, right? When we're talking about these attacks and security issues, it's not like you have all day to make decisions. So it sounds like from your learning strategy, choice is super important because you got to you're going to try things and it might fail and that's okay, but you got to be able to make choices and interact. So it sounds like it's a really important aspect.
That is okay as long as you are in training.
Yes. Good point. So, that's why we do training. Yeah. So then what is it? So the third one, of course, that leads naturally into consequence. Like, what does that mean for the learner?
Yeah, the consequence. We are able to show the real consequences. And that is also, I think that one interesting thing about using Instruct, right, is that we don't need to worry about the cleanup in a way. We can create, I can explain better, but we can create infrastructure. And if the attacker managed to hack into it and destroy it, the attacker will really hack into it and destroy it.
Yeah.
But it's okay, right? Because it's an ephemeral infrastructure that is managed by Instruct, and then you will restart the scenario. Nothing happens, right? Yeah. In a sense, it's like when you die in a video game. You died, but you didn't die, right? So it's similar. So the consequence is very, very evident, and we want to make the consequence very evident to the user, right? Because we are security. We are dealing with consequences, and the consequences of not having security, that is one of our main value drivers.
Right. And it sounds like for the learner during their experience, knowing there's a consequence makes them more engaged as they walk through the challenge and make choices. It's like, I got to solve this because my day job requires me to understand this and be good at it. And most people, of course, want to learn because they want to get better.
Yeah, no. And the people gets competitive in the good sense, but they try to solve before the others and they try to argue that they have found the best solution,
Yeah.
and but that is good, right? It's like training for any other activity in
Sure.
life. The training is harmless, but the real activity has consequences.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you need to try and get good and at what you are doing. In this case, it's IT security. So yeah, I think that the consequences, right, of what we saw, and that is something I just remember, right? But some of the things that we do and we attach to these trainings are real world news
Interesting.
about, this particular company got hacked and this customer data was stolen, and that you can see what is all the implications with the reputation, financial implications, or basically all the hours of people that you need to do to patch and recover the system.
Sure.
So we are linking to tweets or news articles. So then we are not trying to scare the people, right?
Yeah.
We are trying to explain why this is important.
Yeah. And it makes it real, right? It gives it.
It makes it real, right? Because it's with this vulnerability that you are using, for example, in this lab, this is not a vulnerability that we just, it's real. It's a real vulnerability, and this company's got hacked.
Sure. And I'm a bit biased. I'm a former Instruct user myself, and I love the gamification aspect of it. It's kind of one of the core values of Instruct, that kind of gamification approach. And so where does Sysdig benefit the most from that in their scenario-based learning? Like, how does gamification fit into all of this?
Yeah, so one thing that we do with gamification is sometimes we pit people against each other, all in a friendly setting, right? Again, but you can have the red team and and the security team. So you can have in some of the exercises that we do, there is like capture the flag, or some of them you are against the clock.
Yeah.
So this gamification reflects the real nature of IT security, right? It reflects how in real life, first of all, time is not infinite. Second, the attacker is not always a robot, right? It's not always a set of steps. It's somebody that is going to adapt, is going to learn.
Yeah.
So you need to, it's like in any game, right? It's not only knowing the rules, you have the rules of the game, but you have an opponent, you have an adversary that is going to be evolving with you.
Yeah.
And that is what makes it interesting, right? Because then it brings the competitive side of people, and it gets exciting, right? Because at the end of the day, they are playing a game, right? But they are really learning. They are really learning, and most of the times after the session, they have a lot of questions about what did I do wrong, why is this not working, and you get an understanding that you never get from theory alone. Never. I've been sorry if the answer is a little bit long, but I've been in both sides of this, right? In the sense that in my former role, I was explaining with slides, and I was explaining just the theory.
Yes.
And when they use the product, it's completely different experience.
Absolutely.
It's a completely different experience.
Right, because then they're learning through that hands-on piece.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's dive in. You have some really interesting stuff to share.
So yes, hopefully. It's one of the examples, right? In this case, is this scenario is against the clock, right? I'm going to try and share my screen. Okay, so here we have this Instruct scenario, right? You can see, right?
We absolutely can. Yep.
Okay. So the first thing that is super nice, right, is that you can embed the explanations or videos about Sysdig, the value that you are going to present, right? So you have this kind of front page that you can create for any of these scenarios where, for example, we are explaining the main value drivers, right? And as you can see, we don't get into a lot of theory, but we explain you what are the main value drivers and we have Instruct, how to use Sysdig, right? So while you are waiting to load, you have all these little explanations. By the way, sometimes we have scenarios where you have to wait 3-4 minutes, right, for it to.
Sure.
If the scenario is longer, Instruct is giving us hot starts, right? So basically, you are preloading a number of scenarios, and then basically the attendee can open it and then start playing.
Yeah.
That is super important, right? Because sometimes you are at a conference,
Yeah.
and you may have like 30 people attending the conference.
That's right. Yeah. And attention spans are short, so.
Yes, and no, not only attention spans are short, but if you're in a conference and there are like 5 activity rooms, right? If you take 5 minutes to load the scenario, the people will go to other activity.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So for us, it's very important that you can basically prepare these scenarios. And another thing, probably the most important value that, or one of the most important things that Instruct is bringing to the table, is that we are able to tell the customers, the attendees, and I love saying that, you only need to bring your laptop and an internet connection and a browser, right?
Yep.
Everything else is created automatically for you, and then automatically discarded after the exercise.
Absolutely.
Right? So, okay, so in this case, right, we are presenting this scenario, and I was presenting this, 555, right? This 555 is a concept that we keep reinforcing, right? Because it means that you have 5 seconds to detect, 5 minutes to triage, and 5 minutes to respond, right?
Wow. Okay.
Because the attackers are this fast, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then we tell the attendees, okay, don't take our word for it. You are going to be the attacker. Sorry, the sandbox expired. Okay, I think the sandbox expired in this case, but let me see if I have to reload. Okay, no worries. 1 second, because I have the.
And how do learners typically? Yep, it's fine when it loads up.
I have a recording for the sandbox, so
okay.
Yeah, no, it's because that one I had it open for a period of time, but
that's right. We timed out. We didn't hit. We hit the consequence of talking.
yes. We time out during the talk, but no worries because I have it here. Okay, and you can see here, right? This video.
Yes, we can. All right, so let's
okay. So I was delivering this particular scenario, right? So one of the interesting things is we get into the scenario, right? And right from the beginning, we have the attacker tab, we have an AWS console, we have Kubernetes, we have a Sysdig secure account, right? And we are also creating a Jenkins dashboard and GitHub account everything is connected, right? So hopefully this makes sense. And this is showing that we are creating not just as we were saying at the beginning, right?
Sure.
It's not just a small virtual machine, or we are creating a complex scenario. And we really need that scenario for the particular demo that we will be doing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so once we have logged into this particular demo, we are showing all the different commands, right? And we are always highlighting that this is a real infrastructure, right? So we have a set of commands that you can type, right? And in this attack, you can see me execute the set of commands. So in this case, I'm running an nmap. I'm establishing a reverse shell against the machine that I'm exploiting. I'm exploiting one of the vulnerabilities that is present of the server, right? All of it is totally real, right?
Yeah, I think you had said that earlier, but it's a bit of an understated because it makes it look so simple. But these environments are actually running out there with like the vulnerability in place. So you're actually really this is the real deal in the sense of like as you go through this and you're learning, there's real challenge to this.
Yes, no, definitely. And actually, we need to be careful sometimes because we need to be sure that the scenario that has this real vulnerability is only being exposed to the customer, right? Or
Yes.
the attendee in
Yes.
this case.
Yep.
We don't
That's
want that to be exposed everywhere because it's, and that is also actually one very interesting feature that Extract is providing us in this case is that it's giving us ephemeral IPs and ephemeral URLs.
mm-hmm.
So we can even tell you, okay, go access this web server, right? So we can have a web server, we can have a Jenkins, we can have many different resources running, and they are reachable by the customer, but they are not reachable from the internet at large, right?
Exactly.
If that makes sense.
Exactly. So we have questions coming in too as we go through the demo, Mateo. I thought this
Okay.
is interesting. They were asking, does your track use K3s or EKS or something else? So like one of the known things with the load times with EKS is a challenge, I think, out there. So can you give me a background, a little bit of what you're running there?
Yes. So in this track we are using Kubernetes over EC2.
Okay.
Right, so we are creating a Kubernetes machine over EC2, and the interesting thing is that when you log into Sysdig, you can see, and that is something that I love to do with my students. Right, this is the Sysdig product. Right, we are not here to talk much about Sysdig, but I think this is related to the topic.
Sure.
I can look at for example, the Kubernetes activity, and then hopefully when we click on Kubernetes activity, you will see like different circles, right? Mm-hmm. You can see like these bubbles.
Yep.
So each one of these bubbles is one attendee, with each one of them with the different Kubernetes cluster.
Yes.
So it's super interesting because you can see them live, how they are progressing, if they are able to detect the malware, if they are able to detect the malicious IP. And you can, as the teacher, right, or the opponent, right, you can present to them, okay, this is each one of these little bubbles is one of you, and I can see what are you doing inside the instruct that is being reflected in Sysdig live.
So it sounds like as an instructor, when you're going through this, let's say you're doing an event, it's actually nice to be able to play that back when you were talking about like choice and consequence. If I'm a learner and I'm stuck and I have to raise my hand and say, I'm just stuck, I can't get past that, the instructor can actually use real tooling as well. You can say, all right, well, let's log into Sysdig and see if you can figure this out. It's not like you can continue to challenge the learner with real life scenarios and real life applications to have them learn what they need.
And sometimes we can impersonate the user in Instruct. That is also a very interesting tool that Instruct is giving us, right? Because sometimes if you have a room with 30 people, let's say, and you are trying to explain your scenario, right? And there is always like 3 people, 4 people that are going to get lost. But you can go in Instruct and then impersonate their scenario in particular and help them out. So what we do, right, is having one person presenting and then another person that is on support.
I see. That's
and the person of support is basically recovering all these people.
And their environments that they're breaking, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So one of the questions that kind of a follow-up. So it was asking, are you spinning up an EKS cluster per person or
per persons? Yes. No. That is, I think that is a very good question, very relevant. We are creating one cluster per person, not only a Kubernetes cluster. We are creating a Kubernetes cluster. We are creating an AWS account or Google or Azure, right? Sometimes the 3 of them, we are creating the 3 of them connected to the same Sysdig account. And sometimes we spawn other things like, for example, Jenkins or a Harbor registry. And one thing that we do that is, I think, is also a feature of Instruct, right? That we tweaked a little bit, but you can see it here. This one is hopefully you can see that. This one is the Olive Walrus, and this one is the Tan Flamingo, and this one is the Amber Shark. So we are giving each student a color and an animal, right? So they are able, so we can see all of them if we want, but we are also able to filter by one of the students, right? So at the beginning of the training, you are like, you are the blue elephant. right? And then whenever you want in the Sysdig Pro to filter by just your exercise that you are performing, you can filter by blue elephant.
That's funny. You just answered one of the questions about are you revealing learners' names and identities, which you're not, which is nice, right?
No.
We're letting learners learn, and that way. That's great.
Yes.
The other thing,
Yeah,
the other question that just came in is: it sounds like this track that you're showcasing here can be both a self-paced track as well as an instructor-led, like as a workshop. Is that how you go to market with these tracks?
yes, we typically prefer the instructor-led. And that is because if we are gamifying, right, we want to do this gamification, then there are a lot of questions will typically arise. And the people will ask you, how can I get better? Why did I fail here, right?
Yeah.
So our experience is that you can do both, right? And some of the trainings that we deliver are very optimized, are optimized to be self-paced. So those tend to be more static in the sense that they tend to be more like, okay, you want to learn about this, I'm going to show you the 5 examples, you are going to execute the 5 examples. So it's a little bit more static. The ones that are more gamified, right, or more kind of adversarial learning, if that makes sense, we tend to make them with a Sysdig person on the room, right? Because then we can answer the questions. Then we can tell you, okay, you were not completing this exercise because the opponent was able to do X, Y, Z.
Right. So it's kind of nice. You have multiple ways in which you can do it, and then it sounds like in a live event, the gamification really kicks in because now you have groups of people kind of going at it.
Yes. So I would say that is probably more of a Sysdig thing than an instruct thing, right? That instruct, will support self-paced, it will support instructor-led, but I think that the way that we explain Sysdig, we prefer to do it instructor-led.
Yes, that makes sense. And I think, by the way, too, that's so many of our customers talk about that. They like the feel of it, kind of like what you said earlier, where you can have an instructor that can engage very quickly and it's almost like just unstuck the learner, right? You know what I mean? It's almost like you're stuck in the mud a little bit. You just need to push out and you keep them going. And when you do that live, it's actually, it's not only really good for the learner, but it's actually a bit of fun too, I think.
Yes, exactly. I think you need to have people playing the hacker and people. You can play both, right? But I think it's funnier if it's more fun if you have some people playing the attacker and people playing the defender.
Mm-hmm. And so do you so what is it about like why does Sysdig think this is so important for their business overall? Like what is the overall goal for making these investments? Because you have a lot of people creating great tracks, you have people invested in making these things. Like why is this so important for Sysdig's kind of go-to-market strategy?
Oh yes. So basically we have a very clear value driver and value message about the security in the modern complex ecosystem and also the speed, right? That is easy to say, but we want to prove it.
Yeah.
So I think that a very important part of the of what this training is giving us is giving us the opportunity to prove our claims, right?
Yes.
To say, okay, you can experience it. We are going to give you a Sysdig account. You are going to protect yourself and experience how a modern cyber attack looks like and what can it do to your organization. What can it? And also, basically there is the pure training, right, aspect of it. You often onboard a new organization, and any security product is complex, right?
Yes.
Especially you have people that is coming from legacy stacks, right? Maybe they were using basically virtual machines, they were using basically hosts, etc., and then they need to learn. It's like a waterfall, right? They need to learn Kubernetes, cloud, microservices, and how to secure all that. So they really want a resource that makes their life easier. They want to onboard. They want to learn about cybersecurity. It's not something that you do in a day, right? And having these assets and these resources to learn about cybersecurity is something that I can tell you that the customers really, really appreciate.
Yeah,
It's something, yeah.
I would imagine it's meaningful, not only just from onboarding, but kind of continuous learning. I know one of the things we talked about earlier when we talked before the webinar was around the catalog as a powerful way for Sysdig to showcase like continuous learning. Do you want to talk a little bit about the catalog?
So we have a catalog, right? That is really a PDF. And that is what I love about this catalog is that it's like choosing from the menu in a restaurant, right? We present this catalog, and then the customers will say, okay, yes, I'm super interested in vulnerability management, I'm super interested in threat detection and response, and I'm super interested in monitoring Kubernetes, let's say, right? And they just need to choose from this catalog, and then they ask, okay, what do we need to create? What do we need to bring? And we tell them nothing, right? You just need your browser and internet connection. We tell you in this catalog how much is it, more or less, right? The time to deliver.
Yeah.
So if it's going to take half an hour, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, we have a very different range of different durations for each one of the items. So yes, it's really a very frictionless experience, right? We tell them, okay, what do you want to learn? You cherry pick whatever you want. You know already the time that it's going to take. You know the number of participants that you can allocate, and then they allocate in our calendar, and we go.
That's amazing. And I think what I thought was so interesting about the catalog too is I think about if I'm a C-level person, like a CIO in a company, and I need to get my people trained. One of the things, like you said, it's like a menu in a restaurant. I can go through this and understand like there's different roles in my organization that needs different skill sets. They need to learn about different pieces of this complex puzzle. And I think Sysdig's approach to laying that out in this way is a really nice way to showcase that. Like, okay, here's the folks that would best benefit from this learning.
Exactly. Yes. So we have the description. We have the preferred delivery mode, which is something that you were mentioning before, right? Some of them are more preferred delivery ILT. Some of them are self-paced, right?
Yeah.
And the time and etc.
That's amazing. And I think the other thing that you said that I thought was interesting, I know it's a very valuable thing Instruct likes to talk about, which is all you need is a browser, right? So it's not like the old days where you had to go and install everything and all that. So I think that makes it nice and portable too, whether you're doing it on site at a customer or if they're joining you through a remote.
That is the nicest thing, right? Because before we were doing kind of bring your own account, we were calling that.
Yeah.
And bring your own account basically implied that you had to create everything, right? And then we were doing the training. But that, as you can imagine, right, the entry barrier there was so difficult that it was a lot more difficult to schedule, right? Because as we were saying, one of the points of Sysdig security is that we will be able to see through complexity in your environment.
Right.
To see through complexity, you need a complex scenario to start with. Yeah. Another thing, Thomas, that I want to comment is that I have restarted the scenario. If you want me to show it.
Yeah, actually, while you do that, this will be good because a question just came in. Why don't you share your screen? Because the question, I thought this was interesting. The person asked, can you elaborate a bit more about the choice the users have, which we talked about earlier, right? And the question really is, how do you give the learners the freedom of choice what to do, but you kind of still have this kind of linear training, right? Like they have to get it done, but they also get to choose.
Yes.
So maybe you can talk a little bit about that. How do you find that balance?
That is a very interesting question. So sometimes what we do is we tell you the issue that you need to solve, and we give you some times, and then we have solutions. So it's like it's like the math book in you have the problem to solve, and then after a time you can look at the solution if you want. And sometimes we honestly get people finding a different solution to the same problem that we were not expecting. And about the choice, right? The choice is basically anything that you want, because let me show you. I think this is going to be easier to see with the real track. I have here hopefully you can see the attacker.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So here you have the attacker, right? This is kind of this virus or bacteria or whatever.
Yeah.
This tab is the real attacker. And then we have the AWS account that you want to attack and the Kubernetes account that Kubernetes cluster, get pods minus A, right? QCTL, sorry. QCTL, get pods minus A. Right? And you have the Kubernetes cluster that you want to attack. All of it is real. So the choice is basically infinite. Nobody's telling me what to type, right? It's a real Linux environment for the attacker, and I can do whatever I want. Obviously, what we do is we offer a set of, here you can see that we have explanations.
Yeah, you're still helping them if they get stuck or guiding them a little bit, yes. But they also have freedom on the command line, so to speak, or the UI or wherever they're working in the tools. They can literally go and try things and see if it works.
Exactly. We are not going to give you the terminal and off you go, right?
Right.
So, well, we are going to do that for a minute, right? But eventually we can tell you, okay, if you want the solution, you can click here, right, and get the next step.
Right.
Why is this step important? Okay, and then we explain why is this important, right? And it's very flexible because, as you can see, we have the terminal. We also have a side panel where we can explain. We can create this web server, right? This is an IP that is automatically. This is an error page, but it's on purpose, right? In the exercise is supposed to be an error page,
right?
As you can see here on this image. But the interesting thing is that all these servers that we are scanning and we are attacking, they are all real. They are all completely real, and you can try to do many different things, right? So I think here we have an example of what we were discussing before. One of the servers that we are trying to scan is vulnerable to a particular attack, and you can see in this post how this was a 0-day related to Log4j. You probably remember Log4j. Some of you probably have nightmares about that to this day. But okay, you can see how we are trying to correlate, right, what you are doing in the attacker's window with the explanation of the security explanations, right?
That's amazing. That's amazing.
We understood really fast that, yes, the real hackers and the real malicious actors are going to go into a terminal and type and script, but if we are not doing pure pen testing exercise, right? We are doing training.
You're doing training.
So we want to
in a real
we want to illustrate everything that we are doing.
Absolutely. So okay, so we're coming up on time, and I think is there any other questions that folks have for Mateo? This is incredible, by the way. Great demo and really amazing insights, which I love. So let me double check here. I'll check that.
There is another question. What percentage of courses in your catalog use Instruct tracks? At this moment, all of them, basically. Because, I mean, we have pure theory, right? Courses that are basically a set of slides or a documentation, but we like to use real practical examples, right? So basically, for every exercise that we have in the training plan, we have a Instruct track. Sometimes several, right? Because what we do sometimes is we say, okay, vulnerability management, and then we link together 4 or 5 different Instruct tracks that are related to vulnerability management. Typically, we do this in increasing order of difficulty, right? So the people can experience like 101, 102, 103,
and build build on that, right, as they go. And
exactly.
And so, how is the team able to create the courses that we're looking through so quickly? Like, I mean, they're complex environments in the real world, but how are they able to put all these pieces together?
Yes, so well, we use the Instruct Terraform and all the resources that are provided by Instruct, right? And one thing that we really like is that we can keep all this course creation in Git or GitHub or in a source, control tool, right? Because we are basically developers, right? Or coming from computer science.
Sure, of course.
So so we don't like ClickUps. We don't like these platforms where you have to click, which is something that you can still do in Instruct if you want, right? But what we like is that we can create commits, and each one of these commits is a particular Git directory, and this way we can keep control of the differences, the commits, who commit the code, when, exactly the content, right? So basically what you do is you create pre-check, right? Or a pre-provision, where you, for example, create the Kubernetes cluster, or you create a cloud account, or anything like that. And then one thing that Instruct lets you do is verify that everything is created, right? So hopefully you have seen this green button start. That means that everything is created, everything is okay. So I can be relaxed that the customer is going to click and the scenario is already ready.
And so last question, the last question, I just saw Chris asked, how often on average do you update your labs? That's actually that's a part of it too, right? It's not just making them, it's keeping them updated.
My manager will be watching this stream. So now we have to update them often because the product is evolving, is evolving fast.
Yeah.
So basically a lot of the pre-checks, a lot of the pre-flight checks that we do are calling the Sysdig Secure API, right, to retrieve data. So we need to update the labs monthly, more or less.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, it's a pretty aggressive schedule. So
yes.
Yeah, makes sense.
And what we do is we have a QA, right? That is very interesting because we have around 30-something different scenarios that we run.
Wow.
Right? And if the product that you want to demo is changing, at the end of the day, you need to have a automated suite to do the quality, right?
Yeah.
So we have that every week. We have a set of scripts that is automatically running. Is a pretend student, right? So he's running everything and making sure that it works end to end.
Excellent. All right, last question. We're going to slide one in, Tyler. I apologize, but the question came in. Is your catalog only for Sysdig customers or is for the general public or a little bit of both?
It's a very good question. It's mostly for the Sysdig public. For the Sysdig customers, right? Sometimes we do an event for the general public, but most of the catalog is for the Sysdig customers.
Okay. Well, I think maybe Tyler, that's a great opportunity. Next time they do an event, let's shout it out for people to know they got to get there and check this out live.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that was a really great content. I mean, even people in the chat right now are saying how amazing it was. So, first off, TJ, Mateo, I want to thank you both for taking the time just to, put this together, all the prep that went into it, and really, share your knowledge with the broader community around customer education and how to do this, really in a great way. I know for a fact I found it super insightful. And like I said, several people have already said things in addition to all the questions. So, with that, I'm going to wrap us up really quick. I wouldn't be a marketing person if I didn't say, if this piqued your interest on Instruct, feel free to, request a demo from us and take a look and check things out. Rolling out some new webinars here very soon that we'll be promoting as well. And so, really hope that you guys will join us for those. But at the very least, thank you for joining us today. We hope you found this valuable. And again, thank you, Mateo. Thank you, TJ. Everybody, have a good rest of your week.
Mateo, great work. Thank you so much. That was wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for attending, and thank you for your time.